the only place for everything Vikings. 6, 1, 2, Vikings.
Welcome back to the 612 Vikings podcast. I am Dustin alongside Drew, aka Skull TV. Drew, man, how are we feeling after that Minnesota Vikings win? We were underdogs going into that game, and somehow, some way, the Minnesota Vikings get a W walking out, beating the San Francisco 49ers, which the week before, they beat the Jets. They beat them bad, quite frankly, and they have a really good defense too, and everything coming in here with high hopes, and we just take that away from them. How are we doing?
We're doing great. It felt like the score was closer than it actually felt like. I felt like that was a game that it was a blowout waiting to happen, and it obviously didn't get to that point, but the score sheet doesn't accurately reflect how that game went. We beat them defensively, beat them in the trenches, beat them throwing the ball, running the ball. I mean, just every facet of the game we beat them in. And it's no wonder why the Vikings won. The Niners just didn't come to play. Good for us. But I did tweet out some Niner fans are kind of getting a little excuse, throwing out a lot of excuses out there, saying, "Oh, we didn't have player X, player Y," and let's not forget that Sam Darnold put the game away and put the game on Will Reichert's foot without Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, or T.J. Hawkinson. And I think for a good portion of that game, Aaron Jones wasn't playing as good compared to Ty Chandler in that game. It was more the Ty Chandler show. So all of these star players we have on offense, a lot of people said that we were going to be good with the rookie quarterback, and it was the number one destination to go to. And Sam Darnold worked with what he had and had the game-winning drive to put the game away. So can't ask for anything better than that. So.
Yeah, so in this episode, we'll just kind of go over our firsthand observations from the game, kind of what we took away from it, and then we'll get to some injury updates as well, because I know a lot of you have been kind of wondering about that. Maybe you have seen it by now, but maybe some of you haven't. So firsthand observations, Drew, what kind of stood out to you? Maybe one or maybe a couple things that kind of stood out to you. I know for me, I'll kind of start with maybe not as hot of a topic, but the whole Vikings defense, we say that it's really good and stuff, which it is, but giving up 400 yards, to Brock Purdy and then Jordan Mason as well. We still had the 2 interceptions, 5 to 6 sacks, creating a lot of pressure and just a lot of 3 and outs, getting out on 4th down too. It's just not a box score kind of stat that you're looking at like, oh yeah, the Vikings defense is really good, but just the eye test. It's really fitting the eye test with everything else. And I think that's one thing that I do want to put out there is that the Vikings defense, even though it led up 400 yards combined, I still think that it's a really good defense. And even Brock Purdy said it after the game that, that Brian Flores, he talked to him right after the game that, the scheme is crazy. And it is. We're seeing that through 2 weeks. So, Drew, we'll kind of get to what you kind of observed in Sunday's game against the Niners.
Yeah, I think we kind of know what the Vikings are at this point. I think the Giants game really kind of put into perspective what we were going to be looking for. And I think with the Niners too, I think we kind of got the same result offensively, or pretty similar production, I would say. But I think this was more of a game that the Niners lost and gave away more than the Vikings actually won, which I know a lot of Vikings fans don't want to hear. But how many times did we see the Niners pass on kicking the field goal? Because Jake Moody's got a leg. He can kick that thing into the late 50s. He can kick that thing into the stratosphere. So I think they turned it over on downs 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. Especially one at the goal line too, like the not being able to punch that in. And if they do punch that in, we're talking about a whole different ball game here. And and Fred Warner, I mean, that dude is Fred Warner's got. If anyone says that their linebacker's better, it's Fred. No doubt is it not Fred Warner. All right, if Fred Warner won, everyone else is second, third. You can have any other order. Fred Warner is first. He single-handedly put that game on his back to try to get the Niners to win that game, having that acrobatic interception on Sam Darnold, which, it might have not been the greatest throw, but that was a play that no other linebacker I think could have made that except for Fred Warner. And then having that ball like peanut punched out of Aaron Jones at, inside the 5 to get the Niners the ball at the 1 yard line, drive it 99 yards to make it a ball game. I mean, those little things. I mean, that's a minimum 10-point swing if there's just an ordinary linebacker there. And that's why I was saying, like, the game that we saw on the box score was a different result than what it was when we actually watched the game. The Vikings were boat racing this team, and the Niners did not come to play whatsoever except for Fred Warner. Everyone else was either maybe they were contributing a little bit, maybe like a little bit of Debo, a little bit of Jordan Mason in the first half, but no one else really showed up to play. It felt like, I mean, it just seemed like Trent Williams was off. He was off his game. Brock Purdy was not the same Brock Purdy we've seen all season. And then obviously defensively, Nick Bosa had the 2 sacks, but they were kind of like untimely sacks where they're like, yeah, we can afford those sacks, but we can also, I think they ended up getting some first down looks. It wasn't like, oh, these sacks are going to kill us. Like you got to have drives like
down, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like it was one of those like you could live with those sacks and then move on. It wasn't like those, oh, dang, we just got sacked. Now we got to punt the ball back and, or fourth quarter sack or anything. It was just kind of like your regular sack. It's Garrett Bradbury, man. He held his own. Like that interior rush, Javon Hargrave, those guys just did not do anything. They were awful. D-line was awful for him. Secondary was atrocious for the Niners. They just didn't come to play. And I think if it were maybe later in the season or if we see them in the playoffs, I think this could be a whole different ball game. But the good thing is if we do have the same record, then the Vikings would host a home playoff game. So it's nice to have that little tiebreaker implication in there. But yeah, that's kind of what stood out to me the most was not necessarily how much the Vikings won it, which again, the Vikings came to play. I don't want to discredit them, but I think it had to be, I think for them, the game should have been a lot bigger of a gap than it should have been. I think the Niners didn't come to play. I think if we got the best Niners, I think they probably would have beaten us. But
sure,
the fact that the Vikings showed up to play, the Niners necessarily didn't play their best game, and ultimately led to the Vikings W. But that's kind of what stood out to me, at least.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we both brought up kind of the defense side of the ball on both teams too. Couple things on offense, at least for the Vikings. The 97-yard Justin Jefferson touchdown. My video's going viral on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, and it is just a great play to see Sam Darnold back up in his own end zone. Not afraid to sling that ball. I'm surprised of how deep of a route that was. As far back at the end zone that you are, and Sam Darnold just unleashes that ball, throws it 50 yards in the air, and Jefferson grabs it, runs in for a touchdown, just absolute bonkers. The whole stadium was just in awe, and we were like, what the heck is happening? And another one on the one of the last drives of the game for the Vikings, the Sam Darnold throw to Jalen Naylor on third down. Sam had ice in his veins on that last drive. Just crazy. No Jefferson, no Addison, no Hawkinson for a month. Like there was no excuses, I guess there could have been every excuse in the book, I should say, but it's crazy that Sam Darnold is just playing out of his mind, and the offense is here to play, and a lot of people have been doubting it because Hawkinson has been out. Sam Darnold as your quarterback. It might have been the same Sam Darnold as in Carolina and New York as well. We're not getting that. We're getting the Minnesota Vikings version, which is probably the best version of Sam Darnold that we're gonna get, and we're here to see it. So I kind of about.
Oh, sorry. Finish what you were saying. I'll bring up my point.
No, I was gonna go on to the next point. You can.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, earlier in the season, I did say, what kind of Sam Darnold are we getting? Are we getting the Sam Darnold where it was more the Jets Sam Darnold, or are we going to get more mid Sam Darnold from Carolina? Like he started off really hot, fell off a cliff, then got benched, and then Baker got traded to Carolina from Cleveland, was the backup there. Then he got benched. Sam Darnold comes back in. And I told you, Sam Darnold almost took that Panthers team to the playoffs. And this Panthers team is by far the worst team in the NFL. Maybe the Giants, if they are a close second, they could be there as well. I know they just won a game, they just lost, but that was a game they could have won. obviously against Washington, but it's not like Washington's that much of a threat either. But they're kind of neck and neck, I feel, for that worst team. But Carolina is kind of, I mean, they're just benching Bryce Young in favor of Andy Dalton, kind of tells you everything you need to know there. But the fact that all these quarterbacks have come in after, all these struggles happen after Bryce Young, and Sam Darnold was able to almost take that team to the playoffs. And granted, they had DJ Moore, but one receiver doesn't make the entirety of a team. And I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Christian McCaffrey was really playing. I think he might have been hurt that season, that little stretch. Yeah, I think that was one of that time period where it's like, oh, CMC's injury prone, and then he got dealt from Carolina to San Francisco. Actually, I think he did get dealt to San Francisco, so I don't think there was any McCaffrey. I think he got traded in 22, so there was no McCaffrey. I think it was I think it was Chuba Hubbard. There's no. I think their best tight end was Ian Thomas. I think it was Robbie Anderson, but he can't, as Stephen A. says, can't stay off the weed. And and then you got DJ Moore. I mean, he's going to be a guy, but like, it's one guy. If you can stop one guy from catching the ball, makes your life that much easier on defense. So the fact that he was able to sling it all over the yard with Carolina, almost basically put the team on his back, carry him to almost to a playoff appearance, and unfortunately they lost the Bucks, who got who kind of eliminated them after that game-winning drive. But he gave him a chance, and then goes to San Francisco and then becomes the backup, and then obviously he's in Minnesota. So I think maybe it's just some of these guys, they just take some time. Granted, it's 2 games. We thought the same thing with Joshua Dobbs, so we'll see what he brings with Houston and furthermore, and keep building off this. But yeah, it's not something I'm very much surprised about after seeing what Darnold did the last couple stretches. He was the starter with in Carolina, those last like 5-6 game stretches. So, but yeah, it's definitely good to see Sam Darnold get his confidence. It looks like he's got a little bit more juice, more confidence, more moxie. But it's nice to see that guy. It shows how much a quarterback, putting him in the right system, really can change a guy. So.
Yeah, and I kind of want to bring up a clip too of the Vikings locker room after the game, playing 50 Cent and all that stuff. So I'll show you guys for the YouTube audience that is watching. And yeah, it's really cool to see the whole locker room get together and just vibe like this. So here we go. So basically, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but that's a majority of the whole locker room just vibing just after a really good win. And Kevin O'Connell's just kind of standing there like, this is my team. This is, I would like to see him get in there and dance a little bit too, but maybe that's for when we beat Houston this next week. So knock on wood. Do I have any wood? Yeah, we got some over here. So other than that, we'll kind of move on to the injury updates too. So we had 2, I guess, major injuries, Justin Jefferson and then Dallas Turner. Both, I guess, good to go, which is really good news. They're both kind of day-to-day feeling good, and that's what we can take from it. JJ has a quad contusion, I believe. Just kind of got hit awkward on his quad, on his leg, and I didn't really see the injury. Was it like a helmet or like a shoulder pad or something? But
so what had happened was the play that where Bosa and Jefferson were both hurt. Bosa got kind of caught up by the O lineman. No, it wasn't Ed Ingram that stepped on his foot, so we can get the jokes out of the way there. But I think it was Brandel or Darisaw. I think he just kind of got caught up in the legs of our offensive lineman, kind of tweaked it a little bit. I don't think it looked like it was anything serious. Doesn't look like he's in this significant time. If he does, maybe a couple weeks, if that. But he should be good to go by week 3. I think so. I think everything's fine there. And then with Jefferson, what had happened was he was blocking for I think it was like a toss play or a screen play or something like that. He was blocking the corner or safety. And then Fred Warner got kind of cut underneath or something like that. And then his knee went straight into like his hip or thigh area. So pretty much having a 250-pound linebacker, this big, essentially like a big baseball bat, full force into your leg, it's going to hurt. So That's kind of what led to his bruise there. So, like I said, it was one of those things where when I saw him down, I was like, all right, please don't be serious. And you see the replay, and I was like, oh, he just kind of got hit by Fred Warner's leg. He should be fine. I didn't think
Just
it was
really
going to be
bruised
anything
up.
major. Yeah, but I think the worst thing I was just looking for was, is it a pull after they said it was a quad? Is it a quad pull? But then after they showed the replay, it was just that he got hit in the leg by his knee. So he should be fine. He'll play week 3. I got all the confidence in the world for that. So it'll just be a really rough week, maybe walking around a little bit, but he should be good to go by next Sunday against Houston.
Okay, and then Dallas Turner, I'm sure the same thing. I think it was like a knee injury of some sort. Obviously, Kevin O'Connell said that he's feeling good. Should be good to go. Nothing long term. So kind of optimistic about that. I didn't see that injury either. Just kind of saw him limping off the field. It's just one of those things that when you're at games, you just don't really see everything that goes on. With injuries and stuff like that. It's a lot better on the TV, which whatever. But yeah, I think we came out of that game pretty clean, other than those 2 injuries. So, yeah, full force for Houston coming up. So,
Yeah, a lot of revenge games, a lot of reunions. A lot of people are talking about the reunion with Case Keenum, Daniil Hunter, and all those guys coming
Diggs.
back. Cam Diggs, yeah. It'll be Diggs' first game back at Minnesota since being traded from the Vikings in 2019. But underrated story no one's talking about. Derek Stingley Jr. will be having his pro debut against former teammate Justin Jefferson, who were college teammates of that 2019 LSU team. So very underrated matchup. The best receiver from that team that had the best pro careers. Now, obviously Jefferson, Jamar Chase being a close second. But Stingley Jr. was the best corner on that team. CB1, DB1 as a true freshman, was a lockdown corner. And that's really what kind of got the eyes of him at the NFL level was in 2019. So it's kind of exciting to see. So we'll see what happens and who takes round 1 in this interconference matchup. It's definitely going to be a lot of storylines going into this one. So definitely going to be a fun one to watch for sure. Whether if you're a Texas fan, Vikings fan, just enjoy the storylines. A lot of former Texans on the Vikings, a lot of former Vikings on the Texans, and then obviously the college teammates. So I just mentioned, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, a lot of good inner team revenge game where you got Blake Cashman going against the Texans. You got Jonathan Grenard going against the Texans. Diggs Vikings, Hunter Vikings. Case Keenum. I think he's on IR though, if I remember correctly. So it won't be that
Cam
big of a
Akers.
deal technically. Cam Akers too. So yeah, a lot of good inner in the game rivalries too. So yeah, it'll be definitely interesting to watch with, especially the 49ers. We thought that defense was scary. That the defensive line for the Texans might be up there as well with Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson and company as well. So we'll kind of see how the Vikings fare with their offensive line kind of going against them. Brian O'Neill, Christian Darrisaw know what Daniil Hunter likes to do. They went up every day in practice. So we'll see how that fares. And see how Sam Darnold throws for over 300 yards again on another team. So, Drew, I kind of want to go into another, segment here. We'll go into some hot takes. If you have kind of any hot takes at the top of your head, either from the Niners game or going into the Texans game, either one of those games, or kind of going forward too for the season, what is your biggest, hottest take for the Minnesota Vikings this year?
Well,
I'm putting you on the spot, but
I did say in a previous video that we just made, we did a schedule prediction. I said the Vikings would go 9-8. I thought I was being friendly. It's looking like it's going to be even better than that because I think it's going to get double digits. Yeah. Because if you look at the schedule, this is before Jordan Love got injured, right? So Jordan Love gets injured week 1. I would be floored if he played against the Vikings just because the fact that he's a franchise quarterback for the Packers, or at least they see him as a franchise quarterback. To rush it
Oh, Drew is frozen here while he is fixing his stuff, and we'll wait for him to come back here. I'll kind of fill in, but yeah, I don't know if Jordan Love will play against the Vikings. He was questionable going into that Colts game, and yeah, we'll see if he plays or not against the Vikings.
Awesome. Yeah, so after some technical difficulties we just had to surface, Dustin was saying, I was just basically saying, kind of covered for what I was saying, but I'd be floored if Jordan Love played, you know, the anywhere between now and the Vikings game. But I mean, you look around at our schedule, you've got the Jets, who a lot of people perceived as a big time threat. They're not really looking too hot right now. They barely scathed by the Titans, got blown out by the Niners, which is a team we just beat. Granted, it was on the road, but you got to at least keep it close on the road for me. The Rams, I had that as a loss. There's going to be no Puka Nakua. Cooper Kupp is looking like he's going to miss significant time, where it's 5-6 weeks out, but there's a good chance that Cooper Kupp doesn't play. Yeah, I think it's still up in the air, but I don't know if Cooper Kupp's going to play. I don't think Puka Nakua is going to play. I think Nopum's going to be out. I don't know how long Rob Havenstein's going to be out. That offense is just depleted. And John Johnson just got, and Jonah Jackson both have hairline fractures on their scapulas, so they're going to be out. So they're just floored by injuries. And this is a team that just got, I mean, they had Cooper Kupp against the Cardinals, and they got mollywopped by them on the road. So I don't know what it's going to be like going into LA, which I could see that being a bloodbath. If we keep playing the way we do, that could be a win. The Colts, they're not the scary team they were last year. Like I said, Anthony Richardson's going to be Jekyll and Hyde. He'll either have a really good game or a really bad game. So we'll see what happens with that. Jacksonville, they're susceptible right now. Obviously, the Titans, the Bears. A lot of people had the Bears as this. Oh, well, they're going to be better than the Vikings. That's not looking like it's going too well for him right now. Caleb Williams could
still
not.
Still early, but
we'll
see.
I said that they had to start fast for them to make the playoffs. I don't think that they're going to start very fast. So I think that's looking like another. I had them splitting the series. There's a good chance.
Oh, well, he's paused again. Let me pause. We'll be right back.
It might have just paused. All right. So yeah, as I was saying, with the Atlanta Falcons, that was a team that got their butts kicked by the Steelers. And, right now they're playing on Monday Night Football. They're playing right now. So we'll see how they kind of bounce back against Philly. But a lot of these games that we thought that were going to be tough games are now looking very, very winnable. Things change fast in the NFL. So, like I said, that's why I was kind of optimistic about it. I knew what this defense was going to be capable of. Sam Darnold was just the biggest question mark, and he's answering a lot of those questions right now. So, like I said, I welcome the Texans. This is going to be a good fight. And, if we win against the Texans, I'm fully buying into the Vikings making the playoffs this year. I think a lot of the media will buy in as well. I think all the doubts will be silenced pretty quickly if they beat the Texans and the Niners, especially in back-to-back weeks.
Man, if we go 3-0, that this team has nothing to lose. One of the best starts we've had since 2016, and we all know how that ended. 8-8, missed the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. But this year might be a little different. We might be like the 2017 Vikings team, where we had, considered a backup starting quarterback and just a really good defense. And the more you look at that 2017 team, versus our team in 2024, there's a lot of similarities there, really. And, who's to say that we can't replicate the same outcome, or even better, just something similar where we can still make the playoffs in a way. So with that said, the sky's the limit. Sky is the limit for this Minnesota Vikings team. So we'll kind of see how this team fares throughout the season. Any injuries, knock on wood, nothing major happens, but we'll see how far Sammy D will take us this year. So with that said, I think we will hop off this episode. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you guys leave a like down below, leave a comment, and follow us on Apple and Spotify, 612 Vikings, and then on Twitter as well at 612 Vikings. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Skol Vikes.